Hey there, fans of Brotherly Love Wrestling. It is I, Vic Delicious.
Philly's own, the Mecca here.
It is the real McCoy, J.D.X. Justin D. Xavier. And
it's your man, CD, the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels.
Hello, boys and girls. This is your old friend RJ City.
Hey there, Brotherly Love Wrestling. Bill Carr here.
Hey everyone, this is two-time guest Wheeler Yuta.
Two bozos from Philadelphia flapping their gums about pro wrestling this, pro wrestling that.
Which is not that unique in the grand scheme of things yet.
You are in for a treat because you're tuned in to Brotherly Love Wrestling.
Philadelphia, are you ready?
No! They said, are you ready?
This is Brotherly Love Wrestling Podcast, your first stop for everything professional wrestling. So sit back and enjoy wrestling talk at its finest with your hosts, Larry Hall and Joe Corrado.
Welcome, everybody, to Brotherly Love Wrestling. On the show this week, we have an ECW original. He is the quintessential Studmuffin. He is Mr. Joel Gertner. Joel, welcome to the show.
Well. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Did you take that from Paul Bearer, or were you the originator? Because you do it in a different way, but
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the originator. It's kind of a variation. I mean, shit, I don't know if I'm the originator of anything that I've ever done. I mean, superstar Billy Graham was cutting rhyming promos in the 70s. But I don't know. I think, Lexus King now does well.
Yeah.
And I'm flattered. I take it as an homage. I think I'm probably the first person that said it as regularly as I did, like a catchphrase. But it's just such an iconic kind of, evil character from the cartoons. Kind of, it's just something
Twisting
that I think
your mustache.
Yeah. Like sitcoms, cartoons. I mean, it certainly has been said a time or three before I ever said it. But I don't know if it was ever in wrestling anybody's catchphrase until it was mine. So
well, and your cadence too. It's the delivery. Well can be said anyway, but the cadence in which that comes out of you, and you were to switch it up. Like, you obviously wouldn't do this. Like, you do a lot the same, but there were times where you'd switch up. So it was always that delivery that made the catchphrase that it was.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
It's weird. I'm gonna hit one more. No, like, if you say, you could have different tones. Like, you could be an angry, well, or you could be like questioning, well. Like, it's all like it's a versatile word.
Yeah, for sure.
So we wanted to get into a little ECW talk. Obviously, having you on, us being from Philadelphia and being an ECW original. You've been back to the ECW arena most recently as 2024, right? For WrestleMania weekend?
And every other time that Battleground was there. I started working with Battleground, forced my way in, showed their owner, Timothy Embler, the error of his ways in not booking me from the outset, what with having my level of genius but 100 miles away from his so-called events. And so for the last year or two-ish, I've been at all of the Battleground Shindy-rific spectaculars, making them palatable, tolerable, and a whole lot better than they would be without my presence. So I've been to the arena. I was at the arena for a video project. Gosh, by now who knows if I'm able to talk about it. I don't know if it's public or not, but there's a project that Lita was working on, Amy Dumas, the former ECW Miss Congeniality, and that involved a kind of reminiscence and a trip to the arena and talking about days gone by and comparing the arena then to the arena now and stuff like that. So I worked on that in the arena the day before a recent Battleground event. But I've been to the last 5 or 10 Battleground events and been part of the mix there. And so yeah, I get back to the arena. I don't want to say every few weeks, but multiple times a year. So it's no stranger to me, and I'm blessed that I get to be there as often as I am.
And that's the thing, is that seeing it now compared to when obviously you were a talent and commentating and all that, it's such a big difference. And we were too young to really be able to get there in its heyday. But we started
a lot of
going.
sneaking.
Yeah.
A lot of sneaking to get to ECW. We weren't necessarily in the South Philly area, so trains and whatnot would have been it's a wild fucking time. But it's a lot different then in the 90s. Like, shit was a little fucking, I don't know if you call it safer, but more normal, I would say. Looking back at it, as opposed to, like, when you're working for Battleground, and I know, like, they pay a lot of homage to ECW. Most of the times they run events, especially in 2300, that's kind of like their calling. We'll do a throwback to the Extreme or something like that.
Yeah, they do one show a year that's literally like a tribute to the Extreme. So they do like an ECW kind of legacy show where that's completely understood that that's what it is. And they do that once a year. And then, they use a lot of the talent. It's a place where, you would find a Too Cold Scorpio, you'd find a Kid Cash, you'd find, just all different guys. Just
Tajiri. Tajiri rolled through one of the last ones.
Super crazy, and just a ton of guys, I guess. But so they do kind of keep an ECW flavor very much. At the same time, they're trying to find their own footing, but I don't want to go down kind of the wormhole because then I don't want to put Tim Embler over, because that's the last thing I think I'll ever do in my life. I think if my last gulp of oxygen required putting him over, I'd probably pass on it. But I mean,
I'll help you with that.
Talent,
Do you
no
think
denying talent, and there's no denying, there's a lot of young guys. I'm out there with your next X Express, guys like Alvin Alvarez, Christian Ross. We used to have the Philadelphia Playboy, and then he unfortunately lost at a time when losing wasn't an option, and if we would have lost, we would have had to fire a guy. I don't remember if he actually got pinned that night or if I just didn't like the cut of his jib, but I fired him and replaced him with the Undercover Lover. And the Undercover Lover is a great talent, just far and beyond. There are a lot of people, he looks like Philadelphia Playboy with a mask on or whatever. That's neither here nor there. And I don't get into the intricacies of, when you're seeing the Undercover Lover, you're getting a unique experience, and you're getting just a vibe that I don't think anybody, not even the Philadelphia Playboy, could have provided. So we're out there and we're killing it, and we are the best faction in Battleground. And there's nothing Tim Embler can do about it but shake his head and like it.
So
solid. We'll make sure he gets this message. We'll send this to him directly.
Yeah, of course.
He's the worst. The less you talk to him, the better. On my behalf, don't reach out to him on my behalf.
No. We'll send it by carrier pigeon.
Do not. Yeah, honestly, from me, the only message you could pass along to him is just check in on him and see if he's still sitting in the corner sucking thumbs. I have nothing to say to the guy at all. I think that I don't want to be near him. His carbon dioxide is probably harmful to plants. He's just I think, as far as his booking, as far as his promoting, I think he's the kind of guy that sits on the TV and watches the couch. And if you're forced to talk to him, then I guess, fine. And I'm, sorry to hear about it. And I wish you all the best. And may God have mercy on you. So
That was like one of the best like PG, like I call it, like that was TV PG. There was no
Absolutely.
cursing, no nothing.
Yeah.
It was just that was perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a very kid friendly bashing.
I've been working on my shit for 49 years, and it started out TVG. So
there you go.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. The way you deliver, like when you're doing promos or even obviously on commentary,
Eloquent.
yeah, you must like. Did you study a thesaurus for years? Like some of the words, like I saw someone say it, and I couldn't agree more. I learned the word quintessential from you because I didn't know what the hell quintessential meant. Like
I still don't know if I know what it means.
like it was like you sound and probably are so eloquent when you're delivering those lines that it comes off so smooth.
tell the wife, she thinks I'm a man child.
Well, I mean, our wives
we
think the
can't
same
help
of
you
us.
there.
So.
Yeah, we just can't. When you
I actually did have a rhyming dictionary growing up. It was not a thesaurus. It was called a rhyming dictionary. So it's the kind of thing where like you look up the word shoe and it'll just give you pretty much every word in the English language that rhymes with shoe.
Interesting.
So I don't know how much of that got ingrained and hardwired in me, but growing up in my adolescent years, I did have that book in my room on my bookshelf, along with truly tasteless jokes and gross jokes and stuff like that. And that's where the Rubik's Cube, which was the first Gertnerism, just like Rubik's Cube, the more you play with it, the harder it gets. That was out of like, truly tasteless jokes, volume whatever. And I read it when I was like 10 years old. And I was like, ha, 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 that's funny. And then 10 years later, boom, I brought it out, put it on TV.
Now, with that type of like childhood and your whatever your thought process was, like what was the initial plan having that type of stuff? Like what were you planning on doing?
Be a complete degenerate, bro. Wind up in jail probably for, I don't know. I mean, so I'm watching wrestling. I'm watching Piper and Jesse Ventura, and Jesse's talking about, it's not cheating if you don't get caught, and Piper's doing all of his like racial stuff and just everything he was doing in Piper's Pit with Frankie Williams and this, that, and the other thing. I'm watching Morton Downey Jr. at 9:00 at night. I'm watching Howard Stern and listening to Howard Stern. I'm listening to 77 WABC talk radio, and I'm just being flooded and filled with all this kind of video, but also a lot of audio imagery, so to speak. A lot of audio kind of just, and it's just all this kind of shock jock. Andrew Dice Clay, the Jerky Boys. I mean, this is all what's going on around Brooklyn and New York City at the time. So I was just, the stuff that captivated me, I'm inundated with it. And it's all of this really controversial, high viscosity, shock jock kind of humor and content. And so yeah, man, if I wouldn't have become the quintessential stud muffin, I don't know how I would have been able to put it to good use in the real world and been a human being.
Dude, Paul Heyman literally took like all you guys and like it's amazing because like once you named all those names, like I remember all that. Like we're not that far off. We were a little younger when it did come out, but still it was a northeast type thing. The Jerky Boys made their way down here. Like it Howard Stern, same, but it's crazy. Like that's the type of show that ECW kind of was. It was like wrestling was perfect, especially ECW, because that's like it fits right in. If you name like all that stuff and you're like, oh, ECW, you're like, holy shit, like this is like everything fits together.
Yeah, I mean, I thought my calling before I found wrestling. I found something else a lot earlier, and for a few years I was watching that until I started watching wrestling, was game shows. And I always thought, like when I was really young, growing up, when I was like 4, 5, 6, 7, I always thought I was going to be a game show host.
That's
And
crazy.
before I really got into wrestling when I was just kind of starting as a teenager on the indies, the gym circuit, the bootleg circuit, and I'm like 16, 17. Back then, I'm doing a little bit of wrestling, whatever I can, but I'm not really getting paid for every booking yet. I'm not working anywhere regularly. And what I am doing, though, up at school is sports radio. I'm the sports director of a radio station. So I'm doing sports news and sports talk. And that's another thing that I was doing. And I guess, if the wrestling thing wouldn't have clicked, and if I wouldn't have been discovered, and if it wouldn't have taken off, I mean, maybe I'd be, a sports guy and still doing TV, radio. Who knows? But I'm blessed that, my childhood dream was, my idols were Paulie and Jim Cornette, Bobby Heenan, Jimmy Hart, Freddie Blassie, Piper, Ventura, all the talkers. And I'm glad that I got a chance and still have a chance to kind of walk around in their shoes and do what it is that I've always loved to watch and listen to other people do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the wrestling business, when you name all those names and all the talkers you talk about, I think that's like one of those things, and we've mentioned this before, like one of those lost arts almost. It's almost like people, I don't know, like I always seem to pit everything on either social media or either some sort of technology, but that's pretty much like people aren't used to talking, like they're used to typing. They're not really used to like putting their thoughts into actual words, nonetheless, in front of either hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of fucking people. So, I mean, I really feel like that is one of those things that it's starting to come back here and there. But like, I feel like just the characters, no matter where you looked, either WWF, WCW, ECW, like anywhere, like they all had them. Like, it's not really as prevalent as it was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the original influencers before social media, before TikTok, were probably, guys like Lou Albano and guys like Freddie Blassie and guys who could just get their guy over, just hype guys. And I think that's why a lot of why Paul Heyman is so successful right now in his role is that he kind of harkens back to that kind of carnival barker, that kind of hype guy, that kind of just a talker, you know what I mean? Just a guy that, he does the talking and has other people do dirty work and bidding with him and on his behalf. I think what he's doing now harkens back the most to the stuff like that I loved watching that was happening in the 70s and the 80s.
You know what the best part about that is that the production value behind it and the video package that you can pull off with someone that can talk is so, like, when you find them and you can utilize all of what you have today, it makes it so much better. And like, it's just like crazy because every time you get a clip of Heyman, it's like it feels big, no matter what he's talking about. It feels like it's something big is happening. And a lot of it's like the spectacle. That's all I had.
But no, yeah, but with that, like that's a good point because especially in ECW, you guys are cutting promos till 3, 4 a.m. in the morning in a dark, dingy 2300 arena or in a basement. You know what I mean? Like, and you're still getting insane promos from a Mick Foley, from a Steve Austin. You know what I mean? You're getting these things and you still can watch the clips
Classics.
from like back, like the behind the scene clips of Austin cutting his, and you can hear Heyman telling him what, like directing him, and then all the guys flipping out after he's done cutting the promo because it was a fucking ridiculous promo. Like that, and then like Joe said, now you're adding the production value and the money behind it. And you're getting cinema, like I think last year leading up to Mania, they did the stadium thing in Georgia Tech where Cody and Roman were walking across the field.
On a field.
Like it was watching a movie. It was ridiculous and so well done. But to have a mind like a Paul Heyman behind those kind of guys, it's insanity. You know what I mean? It also makes you wish that Paul Heyman had that. Look, a quarter or a tenth of that money for ECW and where ECW would be today if he had that bankroll to, you know what I mean, to do that and pump that into ECW.
For sure.
You'd be looking at a completely different history.
So
I don't think they would have ever stopped. I don't think
Yeah.
ECW would have.
No.
Like if it was like, I don't know what WCW and WWF were like really similar. You guys were the outcasts. Like you would have been bought. He probably would have been bought out if it came down to it. That would have been. It would have been another case of being bought out instead of put under. Which would have been crazy. All right. Back to you, Larry.
So no, anyway, what I was saying, like with you, and obviously, like we said, you were on commentary with Joey Styles, and you guys were on TNN. Now we know history shows us what happened with TNN and with Paul, and how they just didn't give a shit about ECW, didn't bother advertising, didn't do anything
except during the show itself.
Yeah, except during the show
itself. Time that you were, and that was the one time you were absolutely guaranteed to see an ECW on TNN 30-second spot was between 8 and 9 o'clock during the show.
Yeah, which, I mean, and look, Paul says it in one of his promos, is that the only reason you're watching is that you are an ECW fan, because there's no way you would know we are here unless you were actually watching us. Like, what was it like being the commentary with, first of all, just being a partner with Joey Styles, and the relationship on screen that you guys had, that back and forth, and then going through that with TNN, thinking, oh shit, we got a big network to pay attention to us, and then the way it kind of rolled out.
It was an honor to work with Joey. Especially because he didn't need a partner. He had already called pay-per-views and umpteen numbers of episodes of weekly TV on his own. He was great at calling spots as a play-by-play guy. He was great at providing color and analysis. And it was almost like when you heard him calling a match, it was like he was talking to himself. He was just inside his own head. It was almost like, here's like the biggest, most hardcore, loyal, diehard fan of ECW just talking out loud. Almost like people go on YouTube now and they like watch SmackDown or whatever, and you just hear them talking about the show and giving their own perspective.
Yeah.
That's what it was like when Joey called the match. It was just inside his head. And it was perfect. So he didn't need me, which is what made it, even more of an honor to get tapped to work with him. TNN. What was the second part of the question?
It just being the commentary team and actually getting that TV deal, which I'm sure at the time when you guys got it was, you know what I mean, exciting and a big deal. What was it like to see that big deal and that excitement go completely the opposite way from what everyone probably assumed was going to happen, and see it just completely fall in on itself?
It was tough, I mean, it was, I think, looking back, without needing to be too honest, with, being obviously honest, right? Like, I don't think it's going to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't think it's telling tales out of school. I think we all were getting our feelings hurt on a weekly basis. I think there had to be a grander scheme, a larger scale, a macro thing that TNN was in on that we were not in on. And what I think that was, and I don't think I'm the only or the first person to think it, not even out loud, I think what TNN was trying to do is use us as a guinea pig to see if wrestling would get over at all with their demo on their network to the homes, because they were available in 70% of homes, but not the other 30%. And it was very geographically based and just, based on kind of different markets. And I think just we were a tool that they used in the business of thinking about recruiting and pursuing and perhaps acquiring WWE programming. maybe they already knew they were going to be switching to Spike over time from TNN. It's tough to know, but I mean, I don't know. You know, like I said, I mean, the only time you're seeing our spot is during our show. I remember I think I was in Brooklyn or I was in Waterbury at the time, but I would be visiting in the city, in Brooklyn and in Manhattan, and I would see New York City buses, the public bus, the city bus. I'd see it go by, and it would have the whole side of the bus would be roller jam. And I'm thinking to myself, well, nationally, at 8 o'clock, we're getting a 1 point where the lead-in for roller jam, they come on at 9 out of us. They have half the numbers. We do a 1 point, they do a 0.5. And I'm seeing the city bus go by, and I'm thinking to myself, if we're the lead-in and we're getting a 1.0, and they're the ones that get the 0.5, why are they the ones that get the side of the city bus? So it didn't make sense unless it made sense in a way that at the time wasn't the best way for it to make sense for us. I think TNN had a plan. They knew what they were doing. And so, yeah, you know, at the time, though, whether we thought that they just, you know, had no idea what to do with us or just were bad business people, or, I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. It's tough. It sucked. I mean, it sucked to finally, you know, the carrot had been dangled for so long. You know, first it happened to us with pay-per-view. It took forever to get on pay-per-view. And then finally we broke pay-per-view in 97. And at first when it starts, we're on like Sunday nights at 9. And we're only on a couple times a year. It takes into 98, into 99 for pay-per-view to get ramped up. Now it's 99 and we get TNN. By January 2001, we're out of business. And a lot of that is because of the way TNN ended up at the end.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was, you know, it was real shitty. But you know, it brings that what if debate that we were just having a few minutes ago. You know, what if there were more money? What if the money didn't run out? What if TNN would have kept us on? What if we would have wound up on USA or E? Or, I mean, I don't, you know, just don't know.
It seems like a perfect fit for like a MTV back in the day. Like MTV running at 9 o'clock on MTV. Like that seems like it would have been like perfect or something like that.
I agree with you. And I think this story also has now been told publicly. So I'll go ahead and tell it. But it used to be inside baseball that people within the company, including me, were told that towards the end, at one time, coming out of TNN, I guess late 2000, there was interest from Bunham and Murray, which are MTV producers that they cut their teeth doing the Real World. And they were thinking about doing an ECW show that was going to be segmented as partially what you would see on ECW on TNN or ECW Hardcore TV. And the other segments of the show would be reality TV. So the boys in the car going to a show, the boys hanging out after the show in the bar, that kind of thing.
Dude, that would have been perfect.
There was interest in doing that, and that didn't happen. But that's definitely a story or an option, a scenario that was going around the water cooler at one time in one spot.
Oh man, that's a crazy what if. That's like a fucking match made in heaven.
Yeah, that might have been cool. That would have been fun. The stuff in the car and the stuff at the bar and or at the club and all that kind of stuff. Like, maybe us going to a Phillies game or an Eagles game and sitting in the suite and tearing it up and like, that you could do a ton of different stuff with it. And so I think it would have given Bunham and Murray the chance to have fun with us, and I'm sure the content would have been great. But just no way of knowing.
From what we know about reality TV now and how like outrageously popular it is for what some reason, I still don't understand the reason people love watching a train wreck. ECW, you guys going out to the bar, God forbid there's a bar fight or some shit. Like, dude, it would have almost overshadowed. I have a feeling it would have almost overshadowed the wrestling. Like, you guys would have been like, it would have been so wild that, and when you get to that point, you're like, well, we're getting comfortable doing this, and this is like, and you try to outdo yourselves. Like, it probably would have been crazy. And then
it would have been another thing that we did first. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
Like, we mastered music. We got over with music, and we made music a part of the show, I think, more than almost any other company. But I mean, we weren't first. You know, Mid-South did, and Memphis did, and AWA did music videos. So we did music, but we can't say that we were the first. When it comes to the internet and cyberspace and websites, we were the first. And yeah, this, you know, having a reality TV tinge, having a reality TV aspect of the way the show was segmented and formatted would have been, you know, like a first. I mean, we would have been, you know, and again, I say first because, you know, since then, WWE has done a ton of reality TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But nothing like that, though. Nothing like what we would have saw back in the early 2000s. Like, that would have been, especially coming off of like Real World and the crazy drama and whatnot that was, and the personalities that you got that are still popular. Some of them are still popular today. Like, they rode the real world wave. Try to say that 5 times fast for 20 plus years.
Look! There's one of the greatest WWE superstars of all time.
The fucking Miz! I forgot about the Miz.
Like, I mean,
Jesus,
he is Mike Mizanin is from the real world. That's what it is.
I forgot about that.
So yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. And you look at characters like you said and doing stuff like that. I want immediately
RVD in a reality show.
That's what RVD was one. Another one that popped up that obviously you're very familiar with is the Dudleys. I mean, you were honorary a Studley Dudley. Like, that was like, what was it like being with those guys when you talk about heat, and the actual word heat is, if you look that up in the dictionary, it's the Dudleys in ECW, because
especially
there's no one that could get heat like those guys. It was ridiculous. Riots and real fights. What was it like being in that bubble? And not only that, also, while you're with the Dudleys, you had Jenna Jameson on your arm for a pay-per-view. Like, all that included, what was that time like being in the Dudleys and being with them?
It's great getting to be a heat magnet. You know what I mean? When you have Jenna Jameson on your arm, you know, at age 21 or whatever, you're just you're a heat magnet. You know what I mean? And with the Dudleys, the whole kind of fish out of water, like the odd couple, like oil and water, kind of like, why is he with them? Why are they with him? Why are they tearing down every person in this building? But that piece of shit gets to, like, it really was a kind of heat that, you know, your average high school gym independent show from the 90s that didn't have an episodic rhythm to it, that didn't have character development, that was kind of a one-off, was never going to have the kind of heat that we had, the kind of, you know, riot-inducing heat. And it was all the good kind of heat. You know, it was not that kind of go away, we don't want to see you heat, but it was the kind of we hate your guts heat that let us know that we were doing exactly what we intended to do. So yeah, it was just it was a thrill and a blessing to work with those guys and amongst those guys.
So, and being with the tag team like that, we fast forward to 2025, and
it's a long fast forward.
A long fast forward, but we have to talk about it. Joe's wearing the hat, and we have the poster behind us from the first event, which surprisingly you popped up at January 6th, ACW, as the Now's manager, and we're ringside for it. And now we have, for May 17th in Poughkeepsie, Aftershock, you are the manager for the Now as well, for the cage match against Sent to Slaughter. seeing all you've seen in pro wrestling, what do you think of ACW and what Vic and Hale and the group that putting together ACW have done, the job they have done, and just to be able to fill an arena like Poughkeepsie that was ECW. I mean, ECW, that was a stomping ground for ECW as well. To be in that building and see the success on a first debut and what the second show is going to look like.
So those guys are great. Those guys are class act, and those guys are consummate professionals. And I had a kind of level that was built up in my mind as to what I thought that show and the company was going to emit, just vibe wise, just the kind of aura, the kind of professionalism, the kind of ambiance, not just out in front of the curtain on the show side of the curtain, but in the back, amongst, backstage and in the locker room as well. And it was a pretty high bar that I had set, and they shattered it. They just destroyed it and killed it. As proud as I was to be out in front of the crowd on that show side of the curtain with the Now and representing Vic and Hale as their surprise manager, as proud as I was and happy for that, I was 10 times as elated to just be involved and be associated and be a part of what was really a great night in that building, and just an unbelievable accomplishment. So I'm looking forward to May 17th, and yeah, those guys are awesome. ACW is something that is worthy of every fan in the region's support. And when I say the region, zoom out and think even farther. If you're more than 50 or 100 miles from the show, anyway, it's worth it. And yeah.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing. The whole, like, it came together, like, because we've had them on numerous times, and we were one of the first ones they told about it. We're like, couldn't believe it, because there was never a hint or anything like that. But that arena, we never been there before, up to Poughkeepsie, but it was wild. Like, it's very, very impressive for a brand new, never been heard of before company coming to a event that holds that many people, to sell it out, to keep them on their feet the whole time, to entertain with every facet of the show. Like, it's not seen a lot anymore like that. Not on that level, like the indie level. Not too many people are going to be able to bring that many people into a event like that. It was crazy. It was fun.
They fired on every possible cylinder. I mean, they zigged when they should have zigged. They zagged when they should have zagged. It was promoted right. It was booked right. It was produced right. The administrative, it was just, it really was a first class, top notch, top shelf operation. And I mean, sky's the limit. I'm rooting for those guys always, and my fingers are crossed for it. I think ACW has a lot of promise and a lot of potential and a bright future ahead of it.
Well, I mean, you heard it here. We've talked about it ad nauseum on our show because we love those guys. We're friends with them. We want to see them succeed as best as they possibly could and more. So we'll say it here. This is acw.com. Get tickets. We said it. Joel said it. I mean, Joel's been around long enough to where you've seen a lot, and to say that and give that kind of praise to a show. I mean, look, we can say it all we want. We're just fans and we're friends with them. So yeah, of course we're going to say it's good, but it really was amazing. And May 17th is shaping up to be just as good, if not better. You already have the main event, the first match that was announced, the champion Richard Holiday versus Matt Cardona, which was an amazing end to the night when he pops up on the screen and he challenges.
That wasn't even the end of the night.
The champion.
Riddle and
the end of that, the Battle Royal. Like, it just, everything they do, they love to do the shock value. They like to do the surprise. And like you said, everything was weaved in and out right. So if you haven't got tickets, if you're in, like Joel said, if you're in this region, the Philly, Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, even obviously above New York, get there as much as you can. We took the 3.5 hour trip. We're going to take it again for May 17th. It is worth the price of admission plus more to see those guys. And you get to see the quintessential stud muffin ringside with the now, which makes it that much better. So Joel, we appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. It was an honor having you on the show. And we really appreciate you taking the time and talking with us.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a great night. Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be talking to you soon. Don't take any shit from anybody. See ya.